Mounts, a symbol of both dedication and prestige to anyone who plays World of Warcraft. Some mounts are made accessible to almost anyone, but some are only intended to be obtained by the most hardcore of players. Here's a list of the top 10 rarest mounts still obtainable in World of Warcraft: The War Within. This list will not include any mounts that are from patch 11.1, as those mounts were just released and most players haven't had enough time to attain them. In addition, any of the out-of-game promotions such as TCG mounts or other paid collaborations are not on this list, as some of those are still technically obtainable, but are not earned by in-game merits. Now with that being said, let's take a look at the 10th rarest mount still obtainable in World of Warcraft. The first mount on our list at number 10 is the Liberated Slyvern. This is one of the Fox Wyvern hybrid mounts added in the Dragonflight expansion, and this mount in particular is a drop from the rare Breezebiter in the Azure Span. Breezebiter is a rare spawn null with a respawn timer anywhere from 1 to 2 hours, with the mount having about a 2% drop rate. He spawns at the cave shown on screen and flies patrolling in a circle around the nearby area. The reason for this mount's rarity is likely a combination of the rare's longish respawn timer and out-of-the-way location, low drop chance, and relative recency of being added in the first patch of the Dragonflight expansion. The next mount at number 9 is the Ivory Hawkstrider, introduced in the Legion expansion and sold by Trinket in High Mountain for 10,000 gold. The difficulty of obtaining this mount is tied to the Talon's Vengeance reputation, a secret reputation in the Broken Isles. This reputation can be unlocked by completing one of the Falcasaur Hatchling quest lines and using one of the mounts they give you upon completion in front of Aviana in High Mountain at Sylvan Falls. Speaking to Aviana will unlock the vendor Trinket the Raven, who sells 2 trinkets, the Ivory Talon and the Ivory Feather. To reach Honored, the player must equip and use the Ivory Talon trinket, then kill other enemy players in Broken Isles PvP World Quest zones to get rep tokens for 100 reputation. This is where the real difficulty comes from, since the Broken Isles are relatively dry in player activity since we have passed the Legion expansion. Once you do get to Honored though, you will gain access to the Ivory Feather, which lets you gain the tokens from PvP Battlegrounds, which will still take a long time, but is not nearly as bad as the grind to Honored. Next up at number 8 for us to look at is the Stonevault Mechsuit, which comes from the quest Repurposed Restored, which can be accepted from the item Malfunctioning Mechsuit, which drops from Voidspeaker Eirik, the final boss of the Stonevault dungeon on Mythic difficulty in the War Within expansion. The reason for this mount's rarity is likely just the recency and its drop rate that is around or less than 1%. This mount is also only available when the Stonevault dungeon is in the Mythic Plus rotation during the current War Within expansion. So in the upcoming Season 2 for patch 11.1, this mount will be temporarily unavailable until a future season. When the War Within is over, you will be able to obtain this mount at any time on a weekly lockout. Following that, we have the Plagued Proto Drake at number 7, which currently is only available on the Black Market Auction House, which can be found in Dornegal in the Isle of Dorn. This mount typically will sell for gold cap at 10 million gold. In addition, it can be found rarely in the unclaimed black market container, which can sell from anywhere between 100,000 and 300,000 gold depending on your server. This mount originally was introduced in the Wrath of the Lich King expansion and was a reward from the 10-man version of the Glory of the Raider achievement in Naxxramas before the release of patch 3.1 when it was removed. And this achievement was quite difficult to get at the time. The rarity of this mount can be both attributed to its very small window of obtainability in Wrath, as well as its extraordinarily high price on the black market auction house in the current state of the game. At number 6, we have the 500 honor level PvP mount, the prestigious Bloodforged Courser. To obtain 500 honor level, the player simply just needs to play an astronomical amount of PvP, be it battlegrounds or arenas. The fact that honor level was released during the Legion expansion almost 9 years ago, and still less than 1% of the player population owns this mount, is a testament to its difficulty. 500 honor level can take hundreds of hours to reach and is only obtained by long-term committed PvP players, but as a result, the prestige that comes with owning this mount is near unmatched. In addition, this mount will only become harder to obtain for new players, with the barrier of entry to PvP getting harder to breach over time. And next at 5, there's the Honeyback Hivemother from the I'm on Island Time meta achievement for exploration and the Battle for Azeroth zones on Zandalar and Kul Tiras. This achievement involves everything from reputation, rares, treasures, story quest, and miscellaneous tasks around certain zones. Overall, many of the required achievements for this meta are quick to obtain and are not time-gated, but some of them revolve around certain world quests and certain events, which may lend to a more annoying than anticipated expedition to obtain this mount, involving weeks of waiting for a single world quest to appear. In addition, this achievement was only added in patch 11.0.7 of the War Within expansion, so many players have not had the chance to spend extra time pursuing this achievement compared to others if they did not have most of the required achievements before the mount's release. Next at number 4 is the Raging Cinderbee from the Rufius's Bid achievement introduced in patch 11.0.7 of the War Within. This achievement is the world PvP meta for the War Within that requires the completion of many different world quests and weeklies, as well as the Tour of Duty achievements from each of the Kaz Algar zones, requiring the player to obtain 1000 honor in each zone from killing enemy players. This mount is not too bad to obtain if you world PvP a lot, but as it becomes less and less common, and the recency of this achievement's release, the rarity of the mount is understandable. Coming in at our third slot is Jani's Trashpile, which is obtained from the A Farewell to Arms achievement, which is the Battle for Azeroth complete meta achievement for almost all of the content in the entire expansion. This mount not only involves obtaining the Honeyback Hivemother previously explained in this video, but an additional 17 required achievements, some of which being metas requiring more achievements, and a lot of time, such as the Mechagon meta achievement and the Nazjatar meta achievement. Overall, this mount is a huge time sink and requires the player to go through almost all of the Battle for Azeroth content completely. Thankfully, the reward for such an arduous task is a very unique mount that shares a model with no others. This mount was only introduced in patch 11.0.7, but will likely stay one of the rarest mounts in the game forever due to the intense amount of effort involved in obtaining it. Next at our second slot is the Ascendant Skyrazor obtained from Mythic Queen Ansurek in the Nerebar Palace raid, the first raid tier of the War Within. Queen Ansurek has a 100% chance to drop 3 of these mounts every time you kill her on Mythic difficulty, and like other Mythic raid mounts will become much rarer after the War Within is over and we move on to the next expansion. This mount's exclusiveness to Mythic raiding in the current raid tier is the reason for its rarity, and as the expansion goes on and gear gets better, slowly more guilds will be able to clear Mythic Nerebar Palace and obtain this mount. Even so, it will still remain quite difficult to get, as all Mythic mounts are, but currently it is one of the hardest mounts in the game to obtain. And finally, at the number 1 slot, the rarest mount still obtainable in the game, and the mount obtained by the least amount of people, is the Crowd Pummeler 230, an engineering mount from the War Within expansion. The difficulty of obtaining this mount is the tedious method of obtaining the recipe and the gold expense of all the materials. To obtain the recipe, the player must level up their Kaz Algar engineering and use their ability to pilfer through parts with thorium widgets to obtain hastily scrawled notes. Once the player has 15 hastily scrawled notes, they can put them together into an item that lets them choose from one of 3 recipes. One of these recipes has a chance to be the Pummeler amidst a multitude of others. Now, to craft the mount itself, the player needs a lot of engineering materials, which can either be bought from the vendor Paxton Bombshell in the Ringing Deeps for 3.1 million gold, or by pilfering through parts until you obtain all the materials to craft the mount, which can take hundreds of thousands of gold as well, and is all luck dependent. This mount likely doesn't seem as hard to obtain as some of the others on the list, but so little people own it, likely due to the specificity of the method to obtain it, the gold or resource sink involved, and the lack of uniqueness of the mount, making it less desirable to pursue obtaining if you are not one of the most dedicated of collectors. And those were the list of the 10 rarest mounts still obtainable in World of Warcraft in the War Within. Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe for future content. Anyways, I'm out.